Welcome to the Missouri Wind and Solar Podcast. I'm your host, Wes Shank, coming to you from our store in Seymour, Missouri. Each week with my co-host and Missouri Wind and Solar's General Manager, David McDarris, we discuss the latest on self-reliant energy. Check out our additional educational information, including dates for our hands-on workshops conducted in Seymour, on our website, windandsolar.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. So we want to talk today about just some interesting things that I've been observing since we've been able to move in and live in our off-grid place. But before we begin, I just want to mention we've got workshops. Well, by the time this comes out, the May workshop will probably be over, but it was full. We've got, when's the next one? Is it August?
August.
It's August. Yeah. And so next workshop is in August. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Go sign up at windandsolar.com and click on the workshops tab. You can sign up there. Come and see us. But meanwhile, what I wanted to talk and sit with David about here today is one of the things that I've been really watching in our system is, and again, we're totally off grid. We've got 36 Mission 420 panels on 3 solar trackers. We're using FM 100s, Outback FM 100s with 3 Radians. And we've also got our new battery that we've been selling and really excited about, which is the Fortress E-Vault. Those things are a beast, and we love them. We have 4 of those. And I should know, are they 18,000?
18.5 kilowatt.
18.5 kilowatts. So, and they are really cool. We'll probably do a YouTube video on those before much longer. We got to get over to the house and do some video on that. But what I have been really watching, we initially, instead of the Fortress E-Vaults, we had a build-it-ourself battery system, and I was watching those too. And I am since not a big fan of those now that since I moved those out and we replaced them with the E-Vaults. But the neatest thing that I've been observing and just wanted to talk about today is the effectiveness of having a very efficient system designed for you. And so what do I mean by that? So David, and I know you know these numbers right offhand, the average home uses how many kilowatts a day?
About 1,250.
So about 1,250 kilowatts a day.
That's a month, 1,250 kilowatts a month. So a day it's just a little over 40.
So when you're looking at sizing a system, what are we typically sizing a system for then for like a day usage?
Day usage, I mean, if we're just doing day to day, it's going to be the typical average system that we're sizing right now is between 30 and 40 kilowatts. I mean, because most people are, if they're doing off grid that's day to day.
Wait a minute. What did you say we're doing a month?
1,250 kilowatts a month. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you're looking at that, and we're just talking here, obviously, just about being totally off grid. So not grid tie, anything like that. So we're just talking about off grid. So one of the things that I've been noticing about how my system works, which is really cool in my opinion, is the Mission solar panels that we're using are so incredibly efficient that even on a really cloudy day, we're still getting plenty of production out of them. And so, like in a typical day usage for us, if I go out and check the batteries, I usually check them every morning, every evening sort of thing, just to kind of, because I'm really, right now it's, it's all new, it's real cool, and I'm checking it all the time. And, a go-to-bed battery, is probably the low 90s, high 80s. And so, then of course, using it overnight. And we have an incredibly efficient home. We have, a central heat pump, that sort of thing. So, we're not doing a bunch overnight. So then you wake up in the morning, and again, the batteries are probably mid 80s, maybe low 80s, that sort of thing. But even if we have, like the last couple of days has been raining here nonstop, we're still getting almost a full rebound on those, almost a full recharge, even though my solar panels are not anywhere near getting full sun. And so it's just one of the things I wanted to put out in a podcast, just talking about that. As you look at your system and size your system and making choices for what types of panels you use and what kind of system you use, what kind of batteries and all those type of things, realizing that your system's ability to recover like that is really a factor you need to consider. And so what are some of the things that you're looking at? Are you looking at your battery's ability to take a charge in that sort of environment?
That's one of the big ones. I mean, definitely one of the bigger deals is the charge resistance they have. So the less the amount of charge resistance you have, the easier it is for the charge controller and the solar panels to actually charge those batteries. And then after that, after you look at the battery chemistry, then you're also going to look at the actual type of controllers that you're going to use. MPPT controllers are going to be way more efficient, a lot of times by 25% more efficient than a regular PWM controller, up to 50% more efficient than a Bolt style charge controller. So going into these different battery chemistries, just because you have a good battery chemistry, if you have a bad controller going into it, that's not very efficient actually getting the energy from the panels. So we're looking at all those different aspects. And like Wes mentioned earlier, another big efficiency factor for him is the tracker. The panels have the ability to track with the time, with the sun. I mean, earlier today, it was been really cloudy all day and kind of socked in. And then for a brief 20-minute stint, we seen little patches of blue sky and the sunlight came out for just a second. And the cool thing is his panels were positioned exactly where they needed to be for that 20 minutes that it came out, and then it went away. But for those 20 minutes.
But even in the gray overcast.
Yeah.
I mean, my total capacity on there is, I think, a little over 15,000 watts.
Right.
And even in the overcast, we can still produce 6,000 watts out there. And that's huge.
And you just got to think, I mean, the sun is still coming through. I mean, I know we've said this on the podcast before, but you take your shirt off out there today.
Oh, yeah, you still get it.
You stay out there all day, and then you come back in the night, and I'll leave my shirt on, and we'll see which one's hurting at the end of the night, and it won't be me.
So is that efficiency, is that across the board, or is that panel specific? I mean, I know that the panels I got, those Mission panels are excellent.
Mission panels are good. You can look at the efficiency ratings on, I mean, every panel's going to have a spec sheet on them. The greater the efficiency on the panels, you might be able to get away with a few less panels type deal. You know what I mean? Now, most of the industry is trending, and they're all around, between that 17 and 19 mark right now. But, a solar panel.
So what does that mean?
The 17 and 19%, 17 is actually just how it can convert the UV light into actual usable energy. I mean, so, you can't think about it in the form of, I've got a 100-watt solar panel, so if I'm only 17% efficient, I'm only getting 17 watts, but that's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about how efficient the panel is converting sunlight into energy. That's what we're doing. And that's why you see panels getting better and better at the same size, right? Because when we first started out in this industry, or I started out here, everything was a 200 to 220 watt. 250 watt was a big panel.
And same size.
Right. And we look at today, and that's the exact same size panel that was 9 years ago, that they're producing 320, 325, 330 in the same size frame. So they're just becoming more efficient on how they're building the modules, just the different metals they use in them now, different little things like that. I mean, they're just becoming more and more efficient. But that's what we're talking about when we talk about the efficiency rating, is how efficient it is converting sunlight into electrical energy.
Okay. So we've got efficiency rating on the panels, you've got a good quality controller, and then you've got batteries that have low resistance to charging. And our lithium's still going to be at the top of that level as far as resistance to charging.
Yeah. And, like the blue battery, it does have very little resistance on it.
Which is the AGM.
The North Star Blue AGM. It's got very little resistance on it as well. But, it's just a matter of, the lithium is even less resistance than the blue AGM. There's really hardly any resistance on the lithium batteries, the chemistry they have, designed on them now.
And that brings us into another kind of question of this, or just an observation. We haven't been able to put up yet. We're really close. But if we were to add that tower in right now, add that wind turbine in, it really would round out the power on any given day. And looking at that and saying, okay, on a really crummy day, we're getting, I would say, 40%? Right. That's probably what I'm getting. If I'm at 6,000 watts, I'm getting about 40% of that, of my total availability. But you're going to assume that on a day like that, which it is kind of here today, the wind's blowing, and the turbine that we're putting up is a 2,000 watt dual.
Correct.
Right? And so we're anticipating, I think even on the low end, I mean, if that was generating 400 watts up there, you're talking about, if you're generating the 400 watts over a 12-hour period, which again is another conservative number, that's back to 4,800 more watts. Your 48 plus your 6, and you're back at 10. And so what you're getting is that downward curve on what your batteries store. So like in my place, we've got those 4 AGMs, and it's like we're saying, on day one, the usage to production, I'm down 10%, but still using not making any difference. Day 2, I'm down, another 10% for a total of 20%. So I'm very gradually dropping and using all of my batteries before you get to a day that's finally, right. So I've got, call it 8 days. How long have you been in a situation
right? Yeah,
that's been 8 days before you're really scraping the bottom?
Yeah.
And then with the efficiency of those panels and the ability for them to take that charge in, you have one sunny day and everything's charged back
right.
up.
Yeah, it just takes one day. And that's when we design systems, that's why the amount of solar that we put into a system versus the amount of battery storage is equal, because on 99% of our systems, that's how we do it, because when the sun does come out, we need it to charge in a 1 day period. That way, if another 8 days comes along, or however many days of autonomy you've deemed that you want, if another 5 days comes along and you've said you want 5, then you can go another 5 days, and then hopefully the 6th day the sun comes again, and then it can go another 5 days. Now we hope that you're not always running to that exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's designed so you can do that. So that's where the days of autonomy really play into the deal. So like in Wes's system, had we put in just one battery, he may have been at 50% down on the first day.
Been sweating.
And then the second day, like, oh, man, we really need the sun to come out on this next day, or I'm going to be in trouble. Third morning, he needs the sun to rise and not have the clouds in front of it, So, but yeah, that's what we're doing there. And so they're going to match, kind of 1-to-1 type of deal. So,
but yeah, I just wanted to take a minute and go over that it really helped. I mean, going out and seeing that and seeing what the actual what's happening with the batteries, and then the sun comes up and everything's just, filling up your tanks and everything's great. And then particularly this spring in Missouri has been super,
right.
super soupy.
Yeah, it's pretty wet.
And so getting a feel for that ebb and flow on those batteries, how that happens was really pretty cool. Anything else we need to talk about on that, and just how that...
Just, if you want to get the best for your money, and as in lots of things, but this definitely is place in the solar industry right now and in the wind industry. Purchasing the better product is going to get you, that's what you're paying for right now, is efficiency. That's really what you're paying for. So,
okay. All right. Well, thanks for checking us out, and look forward to seeing you coming to visit us at the workshop in August. Take care. Thank you for downloading and listening to the podcast today. If you have a question you'd like to hear us discuss on the podcast, or just want to say hello, email us at radio@windandsolar.com. As always, check out our store at windandsolar.com and buy some stuff. Your financial support underwrites our educational outreach, like the podcast, YouTube channel, and local STEM collaboration. It also keeps Lucy and her doggy chicken treats. Thanks again for listening.